I'm at the Wukong mansion in Shanghai. Located in the former French concession, this is one of the most photographed buildings in the city. Built in 1924, it may look unassuming to Western eyes, but this is the oldest veranda-style apartment building in Shanghai. It's a symbol of the city's colonial history. For cinephiles like us, however, Wukong Mansion is best known as the former residence of Chinese movie stars in the 1940s and 50s. That, and it's supposedly haunted. This video is sponsored by Squarespace. Welcome back to our cinematic journey through China. Our next destination, Shanghai. This is the cultural capital of modern China. The people are well dressed, the food is fancy, and the lifestyle is the definition of high class. It's a century-old reputation born from its colonial past, reinforced by its unique position in Chinese cinema. It's for this history that I traveled all the way to Shanghai to track down the landmarks that shaped the industry. From the site of the country's first movie screening to the former homes of its biggest stars. It's going to be a long story, so sit back as we are ready to depart. This is Shanghai, the birthplace of Chinese cinema. Our story begins at Tiantong Road, Jing'an District. Here lies an unassuming empty lot, unused for a decade. Over a century ago, this was where China first witnessed the magic of cinema. 1842, China lost the First Opium War. Shanghai, a small fishing town back then, was forced to open to foreign trade. The UK, France, and the US carved the city into concessions, foreign enclaves ruled by colonial law. So came the Western cultures, technologies, and opium. Within 2 decades, Shanghai transformed into a major treaty port of the Far East, a modern yet fractured city. It was then cinema arrived. June 29, 1896, Shanghai newspaper Shunpao posted an ad. Announcement from Xu Garden. Starting on the 20th, nightly until 12 o'clock, our garden will provide music, magic shows, and Western shadow puppetry for your entertainment. Admission fee unchanged. There'll be fireworks on the 23rd. Admission is 30 cents per person. Converted from the Chinese calendar, it means on the night of June 30th, 1896, Xu Garden was showing something called Western shadow puppetry. Historians believe that to be the earliest recorded film screening in China. In the late 19th century, this area was part of Xu Garden. It functioned as a privately owned fairground where operas, exhibitions, and festivals took place. On that night, among its attractions were 10 reels of film and a hand-cranked projector purchased by the Xu family merchants. Keep in mind, the Lumiere brothers had only debuted their invention 6 months earlier, on December 28, 1895, at the Grand Café in Paris. In half a year, cinema traveled halfway across the world from Paris to Shanghai concession, then into China proper. Because of the short time frame, the films shown that night were probably the same ones shown in Paris. Imagine, Shanghai socialites gathered in a hall, watching moving photographs for the first time. They saw workers leaving a factory. They laughed at a gardener being pranked. They smiled at a baby eating breakfast. Shanghai was at the forefront of cinema from the very beginning. Cinema quickly became people's favorite pastime. In 1908, Shanghai opened Hongkou Cinema, the first dedicated cinema in China. Converted from a skating rink by a Spanish merchant, the cinema stood for 80 years, entertaining generations of audiences. An old photograph shows its marquee advertising a 1927 American silent comedy, Two Flaming Youths. The marquee was in English. Shanghai's colonial identity has made it an international city. Sadly, due to the expansion of a nearby road, Hongkou Cinema was demolished in 1980, leaving behind an overgrown tombstone. Still, theaters like this were and still are a dime a dozen in Shanghai, one of which is Victory Cinema, still standing right across the road. One can only imagine the popularity of cinema in colonial Shanghai. As for the Xu Garden, in 1899, the international settlement was expanded and a new road was constructed. It cut right through the original garden. And so the garden had to be moved to another location. It was later destroyed in World War II. The original site became a residential block where the Xu Garden entrance sign stood for a while. This too was demolished in 2016, leaving little evidence of its extraordinary history. Xu Garden actually ran multiple newspaper ads. Here's one from June 30th, which I've recreated as a website using Squarespace. The ad is a pain in the ass to read, by the way. Some text runs right to left, some top to bottom. It's a real graphic design nightmare. Luckily, Squarespace provides all the flexibility needed to recreate this monstrosity. The process is nice and simple too. Of course, with all the tools and templates, you can just as easily build something elegant. With a website, I can now show it to the entire world. This reach must have been unimaginable in the 1800s. Having this website also makes Xu Garden look more like a legitimate business. It's a status symbol, something Shanghainese value a lot. That's why, if you want to establish credibility, you need a website. Start a free trial at squarespace.com/accencinema. Use the code accencinema for 10% off your first purchase. Strengthen your brand identity with a professional website. Reach your valuable customers around the world. Visit squarespace.com/accencinema and show up your business today. We skip ahead to the 1930s. It was the Republic era. Shanghai was home to 3 million people, making it one of the largest cities in the world. Though the people remained divided, cultures continued to merge. Jazz, Art Deco, and women in Cheongsam came to define the iconography of Shanghai, an image still romanticized a century later. Here at the Shanghai Film Museum, we can find an exhibit about this period. These movie flyers, meticulously restored, give us a glimpse into the thriving cinema scene of 1934. Evidently, Hollywood was already popular in China. But these are hardly the only films, as domestic production was also rising. Naturally, Shanghai was the hub for the new industry. Unsurprisingly, martial arts films were the first major hits. Burning of Red Lotus Temple was so insanely popular, it spawned 18 sequels before it was banned by the Republic government. Rumor has it, it was banned because children were inspired to run away from home to practice martial arts in the mountains. Sadly, the series is lost now, but the story based on the novel has been remade numerous times since then. The legacy lives on. Indeed, that can be said about the entirety of the 1930s Chinese film industry. Most of it has been lost, but the legacy can still be felt strongly. Approaching this history with that in mind, we'll find no greater icon than Ruan Lingyu. Born April 26, 1910, Ruan Lingyu was the most legendary movie star in all of China. To call her beautiful would be an understatement. While she was certainly gorgeous, it was her aura that truly mesmerized. In the 1991 biopic Center Stage, Hong Kong actress Maggie Cheung and director Stanley Kwan describe her as sultry and charming. In most of her performances, she's clad in high-collar cheongsams. There is nothing revealing, yet her femininity shined. She helped cement cheongsam as the lasting symbol of Shanghai and China. She was the Chinese movie star for all future actresses to imitate. But her contribution to Chinese cinema extends far beyond her look, for her true importance lies in her films. In the early 1930s, as Japan invaded Manchuria, China was on the verge of collapse. This, of course, was felt deeply by the people of Shanghai, who had been living in a divided, unequal colonial city for almost a century by that point. Facing national crises, a new wave of left-wing films emerged, tackling topics of class struggle and colonialism, and Ruan Lingyu was the face of this movement. In the 1934 film The Goddess, Ruan Lingyu plays a single mother who turns to prostitution to provide for her young son. At night, she is glamorous and sorrowful. By day, she is plain but joyful. With hard work, she enrolls her son in school, and yet he is quickly expelled when others learn of her profession. It is an old but timeless story made devastating by her performance, conveying the despair felt by women, the poor, and the oppressed. Little Toys, released in 1933, features Ruan Lingyu as a toymaker from the countryside. Her family is torn apart when her handicraft is replaced with foreign factory-made toys, all while China is invaded by foreign powers. Facing the potential loss of culture, the toymaker seeks to preserve her traditional craft through modernization. It calls for the preservation of cultural identity, which, nearly a century later, still echoes loudly. Indeed, for the 90 years following the film's release, China wasn't always good at preserving cultural identities. From catastrophic policies to deeply internalized racism, a lot of damage was done. To this day, much of China sees the Western way as the civilized way. So much so, wearing a cheongsam in public was seen as outlandish. I was there when the Hanfu revival movement began, when young Chinese started wearing traditional Chinese clothing in casual settings. And they were bullied for it. All because it's not normal, it's not civilized, it's not modern, it's not westernized. Luckily, with persistence, Hanfu has become normalized as kimono and yukata in Japan. It's not rare to see people wear them just for fun. Tourists can also rent them for photo shoots. 90 years later, we have finally gotten back our little toys. Sadly, Ruan Lingyu did not live to see her legacy. In her private life, Ruan Lingyu was tormented by her playboy ex-husband who constantly blackmailed her for money. In her hours of need, Ruan Lingyu was betrayed by her boyfriend who was secretly a married man. He was allegedly physically abusive too. At the same time, tabloid news had dug into every corner of her private life. On March 8, 1935, Ruan Lingyu took her own life in her private residence. She was only 24 years old. Here I am at her former residence. Standing outside and knowing its history, it's a little haunting. After a century of renovations, the buildings only vaguely resemble the 1930s appearances. Without a plaque outside, few would recognize the significance of this place. According to the neighbors and security, tourists like me are rare. In a way, this summarizes Ruan Lingyu's legacy. With the outbreak of World War II, all but 6 of Ruan Lingyu's films were lost. Today, few have seen her work, but people will recognize her name, even if they don't know who she was. Ruan Lingyu lives on in the Chinese collective memory. We already mentioned this, but in 1991, Hong Kong director Stanley Kwan released a Ruan Lingyu biopic called Center Stage. In it, a young Maggie Cheung stepped into the shoes of China's most famous actress. Her sorrowful performance reawakens memories hidden deep within our social consciousness. Maggie Cheung would, of course, go on to wear the iconic cheongsams in the Mood for Love. Today, many associate that romanticism with Maggie Cheung and director Wong Kar-wai. But if you look back far enough, you can find Ruan Lingyu defining the sultry walk some 90 years ago. And so, we arrive at World War II. Imperial Japan occupied the Chinese part of Shanghai in 1937 and the foreign concessions in 1941. For a decade, the Chinese film industry was put on hold. But our story is far from over, because after the war, Shanghai would reshape itself once again as China's cinematic heart. Join us next time as we explore the post-war revival, the reconnection with Hollywood, the recent boom of the industry, and also visit the Shanghai Film Park where Kung Fu Hustle was filmed. Stay tuned. See you next time.